I've been a long-time League of Legends player, over 10 years now, and I've played Dungeons & Dragons for even longer than that, close to 16 years now. So, in order to make those two worlds collide, and celebrate the milestone that I've achieved by reaching Diamond and mastering Jhin over the last few months, I've decided to take Jhin, the League of Legends champion, and turn him into a D&D boss encounter for all dungeon masters out there to freely implement into their campaign, adventures, and one-shots. Before I reveal and elaborate on this transition, it's important that we dive a little bit into Jhin's lore as a champion within Runeterra. Jhin is a criminal mastermind and a psychotic serial killer that is obsessed with the concept that murder is an art form. In his youth, Kada Jhin was an actual artist. However, in time, he began developing an obsession that the human body was the perfect canvas and pain was the ultimate paint to use to portray his gruesome art style. He began murdering several spiritual and political leaders in Ionia, his homeland, and he gained the moniker the Golden Demon because his name, Kada Jhin, stands for Golden Excellence in the Ionian language. Now, as his killings grew more and more elaborate, the Kinku Order, which is basically a ninja police peace-preserving force, sent two warriors, Shen and Zed, in order to capture him and bring him back to justice. The two of them succeeded in doing just that, and Jhin was imprisoned in the secret monastery prison for him to rot away and be forgotten. But when Noxus, a warmongering nation, decided to invade the island of Ionia, shadowy figures within its government decided that Jhin was much more suited as a weapon than as a prisoner. They freed him from his shackles, they gave him a new mask and a new identity and plenty of resources. Included but not limited to tons of money, his lotus traps, his dancing grenade, and Whisper, his signature 4-shot gun. Whisper is part of Jhin's core identity, and I will stick to that design philosophy while transitioning him from a League of Legends champion to a D&D monster. In his stat block, Whisper is a +2 cursed magical weapon. In order to give more depth to the D&D monster and not break the suspension of disbelief, for D&D I've decided to apply the Blood Moon Jhin skin to his appearance in order to not only make him a little bit more ethereal and a little bit more supernatural, but also give him several perks that fit with the looks of the skin, such as the ability of Dark Harvest, which in League of Legends, put in short, once a champion is below 50 HP, the next attack against them does a little bit more damage. Alongside that, in D&D, I've decided to create Jhin as two separate entities coexisting into one. We have Kada Jhin, the meticulous and psychotic killer, and the Blood Moon, the mysterious supernatural shadowy figure with which Jhin made a pact in order to escape captivity. This Blood Moon figure resides within Jhin's gun, Whisper, and is what gives the gun the cursed property and its ability to enrage player characters if the gun is made available by you, the DM, for your players to loot and possess. On that note, not all dungeon masters allow firearms in their settings. As such, if you still want to run Jhin into your campaigns, but you do not allow firearms, consider substituting Whisper for a hand crossbow or a light crossbow that has the cursed property in its basic form, and a heavy crossbow when it comes to the curtain call ability, for as long as you don't change any of the damage numbers. Additionally, because Jhin has a massive flair for the theatrics, he will consider any theater auditorium or place with a stage as his lair for the purpose of lair actions. Because of course, what sort of boss monster would it be if he wouldn't have lair actions, legendary actions, and legendary resistances? Three staples of any respectable D&D boss encounter. Before moving to his trait and his actual stat block for the D&D version, it's important that we take the source material from the League of Legends champion and see how it can transform it and fit it into D&D in a manner that still recalls to the League of Legends source material. Starting with Curtain Call. Now, Curtain Call is an ultimate ability, and we should treat it as such. Jhin should be able to use it only once a day, and only towards the end of his boss fight as the fourth and final act of his performance. Given the skill itself has a cast time in League of Legends, Jhin, the D&D boss, should not be able to use this immediately, and he should have to use at least a bonus action in order to begin the transformation. Other elements coming from League of Legends is that Jhin cannot move while ulting, and he shoots exactly 4 times, with the 4th shot being empowered and dealing extra damage. The main difference between the League of Legends Jhin and the D&D Jhin is that the shots he makes during curtain call are not attack actions, but instead they're considered targeted spell attacks. Jhin simply chooses his target, and then that target must make a dexterity saving throw or take X amount of damage on a failure and half as much on a success. When it comes to the force shot, the mechanic works the exact same way, but the damage numbers are cranked up to the max damage possible. And this is when I can introduce one of his traits, the force shot cadence. In plain words, this is just Jhin's League of Legends passive. He has a gun that fires 4 times and the force shot is always empowered. Force shot cadence is also the trait that takes advantage of the Dark Harvest rune concept, where if Jhin hits a target with his force shot and that target is below half of their maximum HP, the target will receive an additional 2d10 necrotic damage. This trait also applies to all shots of Curtain Call, with the fourth shot of Curtain Call dealing 4d10 necrotic damage instead of 2d10. When it comes to his basic abilities, his E, Captive Audience, stays mostly the same as the League of Legends counterpart. Using a bonus action or a reaction, he can place one trap within an empty space that he can see within 40 feet of him. The trap is invisible, and triggering it slows the target creature for half of their movement, and upon explosion it does 4d6 plus 6 slashing damage, and all creatures hit by this explosion have their movement speed reduced by half until the end of Jhin's next turn. Initial playtest of the monster had Jhin be able to hold only 4 Lotus traps active at the same time, but I upped that number to a maximum of 10 in order to give Jhin more tools to keep people off of him, as just like in League of Legends, CC and people diving onto him is Jhin's greatest enemy. His Q Dancing Grenade was the next big challenge. I wanted to keep the bouncing and the additional damage, but I really felt that the clause that the bonus damage takes place only if a target dies is a little bit redundant. As in League of Legends, Jhin takes best use of this ability by chaining it with minions. However, in D&D, for the purposes of a boss fight, having minions both on the player character's side or Jhin's side would take away from the flair of the performance and the tension that you could create in the encounter. So Dancing Grenade became a ranged spell attack with a range of 60 feet that deals 3d6 necrotic damage. However, if the damage rolled would surpass a certain threshold on the first target, the grenade would then bounce to a second target, dealing additional damage, thus still keeping the concept of the bounce without making it too oppressive for the player characters to deal with and too underwhelming for the DM to have Jhin use it during an encounter. In order to keep the ability balanced, I not only added a recharge score of 5 to 6, but the grenade bounce will not trigger if the target is too far away. The extra bounces of Dancing Grenade and the damage therein trigger only if the damage threshold on the respective target is hit, as per the table detailed in the ability. When it comes to his W Deadly Flourish, the biggest challenge was the root clause within League of Legends. Given that Jhin's boss fight is designed for him to be alone against the player characters, having any additional enemies in the encounter in order for them to deal damage to the player characters and apply the mark that will then be expended to root people with Jhin's W would be a little bit redundant, so I just removed the effect entirely. So on a recharge value of 5 to 6, Jhin can fire a single long range shot that if it hits a target, it must succeed a strength or constitution saving throw or become restrained until the end of Jhin's next turn. Importantly, this ability is recharged by the trait Tempo, which itself allows Jhin to reload his weapon as a bonus action. However, Jhin cannot benefit of this Tempo trait if he has just shot his 4th shot. Instead, he has to reload as per 4-shot cadence. When it comes to his basic attacks, Jhin can make up to 3 attacks as part of his attack action with either Whisper or his Cane, which is a melee weapon, something that I added in order to give him a little bit more variety and a little bit more flair. Whisper's basic attacks deal 2d8 plus 8 piercing damage, and the 4th shot deals double as much, 4d8 plus 8, with an added 2d10 necrotic damage if the target is below half of this maximum HP, as per Dark Harvest in League of Legends. Moving on to the stats, Jhin is more than surely a dexterity based build with more than enough points in charisma, specifically for the performance skill. In order to better portray the passive of the 4-shot and specifically the movement speed bonus that he receives when he fires his 4-shot, Jhin gains the ability of choosing between 2 effects once he scores a critical hit with his weapon Whisper. Either the ability to move up to half of his movement in an unoccupied space, or the ability to place a Lotus trap in a space that he can see within 40 feet of him, as per Captive Audience. Given I couldn't give additional movement speed to Jhin whenever he lands his 4th shot, I instead gave him the ability that if he scores a critical hit with a 4th shot attack, he deals triple the critical damage instead of the usual double damage as per regular D&D rules. On top of that, Jhin has 3 legendary resistance a day and the evasion trait, which improves his ability to dodge damage whenever subjected to a dexterity saving throw. Jhin has a total of 4 legendary actions to choose out of. I don't know what you were expecting. Any number more, any number less would not be on theme. The first 2 are identical to the 2 abilities he gains access to once he scores a critical hit with Whisper. The third one, Fanfare, costs 2 actions and it allows him to use Deadly Flourish without expending a charge. And the last one, Encore, costs a total of 4 actions and allows Jhin to immediately fire his 4th shot if available, otherwise this legendary action is not available for use. I also thought it would be cool if Jhin had one final phase. If everything went wrong in his performance and Jhin is reduced to 0 HP, all Lotus traps on the battlefield trigger simultaneously, initiative order is passed to Jin's next turn. If this sequencing would trigger a lair action on initiative count 20, Jhin would trigger the lair actions and use 1d4 lair actions of his choice. He simply reloads his gun and casts Curtain Call one last time, which lasts until either Curtain Call resolves or his concentration on Curtain Call is broken. Afterwards, he will succumb to his wounds, dissolving in a cloud of red mist and smoke and completing the encounter. So with that, I was ready to take Jhin for the playtest. Ironically enough, Wolf brought a version of Shen and a version of Zed to the encounter, whereas Rain brought 2 independent characters. If you're interested in seeing the playtest itself and seeing in general live play D&D, I have recorded the entirety of it and I'm ready to share it at a later date.
I don't believe we have been introduced to each other formally. You see, my flair for the theatrical is what I would describe as visual in nature, and I'm going to cast a spell called Pyrotechnics, so I'm going to need a Constitution save here.
Alright!
Holy shit, that works!
Nice. Flashbang.
Yeah, flashbang actually. He will choose to expend the legendary action.
Oh, careful, the last one.
He sees the flash. He sees the flash as he sees, you kind of like compel him a little bit. Like the conversation, like the moment you mention performances and everything, he's like, he's sold. What are you selling? And then he realizes, like, as the flash starts appearing in front of him, he's like, you sell flashbacks. And he turns at the last second. But needless to say, the playtest did not go all that well for Jhin.
But it's probably not going to happen.
Bro!
You're not meant to play this. That's the controller. He's just like a shadow, he doesn't see them.
Yeah, just for shot a minion. As such, the Jhin boss documents that I'm sharing with you in this video has one additional final 4th page, presenting an additional stat block add-on for Jhin to make him an elite encounter. We're talking from anything from higher HP to higher AC, more legendary resistances, more clauses for using his 4th shot, more damage, and more frequency in his abilities. Deadly Flourish, now named Lethal Flourish, and Dancing Grenade, now named Dancing Detonating Charge. You can run Jhin the Blood Moon Virtuoso in your own games or simply reading it by clicking the link in the description below or in the pinned comment. I had a ton of fun making this, and I actually look forward to using it in my own games if able, considering that the playtest went as well as it could have been. This is the long... oh my god, all of that for a natural 1.
Yep.
Just completely whiffs the W.
It will get us
such clumsy
to the next
choreography. But with that said, I don't know, just keep on rolling and hopefully you land some crits with him. Thank you for watching.